The squire muttered something about fruitliness being next to godliness.
It's working. Okay. Let's get going. So, I'm experimenting around this time with, I guess, using a restreaming service to try to stream both to Twitch and YouTube. So, hi to anyone out there who's watching from YouTube. It'd be a lot better if you watched on Twitch, but I get it. Sometimes it's easier. So I figured I'd stream like this for the moment, and we'll see how it goes. So, wanted to apologize first for Thursday not happening. Had some personal stuff going on, and I've sort of realized that 4 days a week might be a little much for me. So I will probably be doing the Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays schedule from here on out. We'll see. I might increase it a bit over Christmas since I'll be off work for a bit, but yeah. So, you might have noticed something changed. This. I found a very good deal in the meantime. Somebody wanted to trade me some stuff for a CSL, so I got it. It is probably the most complicated oscillator I've ever used, but it makes some really crazy sounds, so might do something with that today, but I thought today it would be a little more unstructured. I'm hoping that some of the people who have been interested in watching the stream from the EU will be around, and then feel free to make any suggestions of things you'd like to see me try. If any of these modules, really, if you're interested in any of them, I can always patch something through and show you what it sounds like or mess around. So, yeah. Let's see what we should start with. Why don't we start making sounds out of the CSL, just because it's way too cool. So, I still haven't figured this thing entirely out. It's got this interesting system of internal modulations that you enable and disable via this like shift button here. So I'm going to turn all the modulations off for the moment. Maybe the sync off and a few other things. Okay, I think that's it. Let's just hear the that nut is loose. There we go. Let's hear some of the oscillator here. Hopefully. Maybe. This is what happens when you play around with your setup before things go live. Oh, wait. Wave folder. There we go. So, already the wave folder is pretty sweet sounding. And this weird, like, symmetry offset thing. I don't understand what it does, but it sure makes it cool. Yeah, the sub oscillator is just for the sine wave, I think. So let's maybe use the top oscillator instead. I think the bottom one is triangle core or something like that. They're two slightly different oscillators, which you can obviously hear from the sounds of things. Make sure this is in tune first, actually. This has got to be the easiest oscillator in the world to tune. It's a sine wave. Look at that. Although it's actually moving around a little, which is interesting. Do I have something cross or modulating it? It sounds like I do. Oh, I had some frequency modulation turned on, that's why. Make it a lower C here. Something around there. Approximately it. Okay. Back to more interesting sounds. Take the wave folder again. So wave folder. So I guess this module has a bunch of stuff that's like pre-patched. So the sine wave of the second oscillator is pre-patched to go into, like, it's normaled rather to the FM here on the other oscillator. So God, that's some crazy sounds. Now the thing that I hear is really cool to do, actually. Maybe we'll use the other oscillator. Or I guess it would work this way too. I guess that if you, and I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking. She's having a hell of a time this morning. It's -20 out, and she would not handle walking, but instead she goes crazy inside. So yeah. So anyway, so with the internal modulation, you can send the sine wave from one of these oscillators into this offset or whatever it is, so the thing that for the wave folder. But as far as I understand from watching some of the videos on CSL, if you send an audio rate signal into that, it's essentially like you're summing two waves together. So like you'd be the two sine waves in here. Maybe I'll switch to the other view because it makes more sense. The two sine waves in here are summed. Oh, you can't really see this very well. Oh, I can't really reposition everything right now either. What I can do is really quickly find my screwdriver. Let me move this module down a bit, and it'll be easier to see. I don't remember why I put it right here. I think it was just where it happened to fall when I put it in the case, because I was way too excited to get it set up. I don't have much slack, so this will have to do. Of course, I set the tuning now. Oh well. Let me just get this screwed in. Enough to work with. You can see a little bit better now, anyway. I don't know. I want to figure out a camera solution for seeing this top IntelliGel case that I've got. But really, if you want the best view of it, it kind of has to be right here in front of my face. It's not really that helpful. Okay, let me just quickly get it tuned since I bumped that off the FM. Okay, there we go. Alright, so back to what we were doing. We were turning on some FM. And then I was saying, you can take the sine wave from this and the sine wave from this. They can be summed together, sent into this wave folder on the top, and then out, which apparently makes some really interesting sounds. So just gotta take a quick look at the manual again to remember, because you press this shift button, you can see that in the center. When you press it, then all of these other buttons, LFO, link, sync, sub, mod, all of these become indicators for modulation destination. So let me just find the diagram so that I can remember how this works. Yeah, right, so... yeah, it's the mod button and the sub button that are used to enable or disable modulation routing to the wavefold CV input. So if I hit this mod button, that should be sending the sine wave from this bottom oscillator into here. So... is it? I wonder if there's an attenuator. It's not, because we're not sending it into the wave folder, we're just sending it into the... Let's try this the other way around. It's easier to hear the other way around because you can set this top one into LFO mode and have it run much more slowly. So we send like that. It's in LFO mode. FM doesn't sound so good against an LFO, so we'll leave that off for a sec. Why isn't this doing what it's supposed to be doing? This should be sending... Oh, I did the wrong one. Sub and mod are for the actual wavefold CV itself. We don't really want that. We want link here, which... yeah, that goes to the symmetry bias input. Hopefully, oh, wait. No, that's right. Link is turned on. Oh, right. So I forgot to say, when all of these internal modulations all go through a VCA, which is controlled by this index or this CV here. So you have to, like, once you've turned on the modulations, you have to turn it up. Okay. So now we can definitely tell it's working, right? Yeah. Let's now put this out of LFO mode. Oh, that's some craziness. Oh, listen to those harmonics. Whew. Oh. Not exactly ambient yet, but I'm sure we'll get it to that point. The other thing that I learned from this video is that when you're in this mode, because like, you notice that right now it's sounding good. I'm probably like, I don't know, tuned to a fifth or something like that, but you move it off, it starts to sound like garbage, right? Eventually I can hit something that sounds okay. But I guess, so if you turn sync mode on, soft sync mode, see what we can get. It'll help the harmonics to match up a bit better. Hard sync even more so. Sorry, I'll use my other hand here so that you can see what I'm doing a little better. Interesting. And what about if we also send that to the wave folder? Probably won't actually do that much when it's not an LFO, so... Ah, yeah, this is the pulse width mod out. What if we... the ring mod might not do much right now. Amplitude mod also. Oh yeah, because that's kind of a multiply. Let's see. Oh, I think it skips the wave folder, so we're not going to use that. This is what we want. see if we can find something interesting in here. Let me go back to this soft sync. That's kind of cool. So, from here, I think, I mean, so one of the problems I've always had with complex oscillators like this, I have had, actually no, sorry, I have not had a complex oscillator before. I've had simple stuff like the STO and things like that before. But I always find it troubling because, like, yeah, this sounds cool. Doesn't really necessarily sound ambient, right? So, but I mean, again, a lot of you've got to take the raw sounds with a grain of salt, right? A lot of what you have here will suddenly turn ambient if you put reverb and delay on it. That's really the key to it. So let's first get this into a VCA so that we can at least play it as a note. And I realized that I don't think I tuned that bottom oscillator either, so let me just check and make sure. Oh, we're actually okay. A little bit off, but now that's really interesting. When you go off tune, you can hear the soft sync trying to sync up, but it can't quite do it because it's not, yeah. And it gets worse if you go even further, but if I actually tune it right to a C, then yeah, then it doesn't do anything, which is cool. Anyway, alright, so don't need that anymore. We're nice and tuned. Let's shove this in a VCA. And now, since people have asked about it, commonly I would just use stages to make an envelope for this because it's hands-on and I like knobs and I don't like menus as much. But a bunch of people have asked about the ornament and crime. So figure I'll put I'll do an envelope generator through there. We've done the tuner in previous ones, but it's kind of basic, right? So let's patch this up first. And so, ornament and crime. Right now, I am running a somewhat custom firmware suite on it called Hemisphere. I've mentioned it before. It basically divides ornament and crime into two halves, and you have a bunch of little, I think they call them applets or something like that, that you can run on each side of it that do useful things. I find it much more useful than the original ornament and crimes firmware because the original firmware, not only is it very like obtuse because all the names are all pretentious and like don't actually mean anything half the time and are using like you basically better have a math degree to understand what the hell it's doing. This, on the other hand, has a couple of little applets like that I don't quite understand, but for the most part, they're relatively self-explanatory and useful. And you can do two of them at the same time. So, like, if I want an envelope generator and I want an LFO or a trigger sequencer, those can both come out of the ornament crime. So I find it much more useful. I wish they would update it a little more often because it's been a while. So, we're actually already on the left side set up for an ADSR envelope generator. So you hold down the button on the appropriate side to show the help. Or, no, wait, you don't. Oh, shoot. You double tap it, right, Okay, so it talks about, hopefully you can read this, I'm not really sure. It talks about dig, CV, out, and enc. Dig is this first set of inputs, the trigger inputs. So it says that, oh, I have a 2-channel? Ah, cool, I didn't know this was a 2-channel envelope generator. Anyway, so gate 1 is the gate input to trigger the envelope for one channel and for a second channel. CV is mod 1, so it looks like you must be able to modulate in some way the envelope, which is cool. And then out is your actual envelope that's being generated. And it looks like, so you use the encoder. I don't know if you can see hopefully. You can actually visualize the envelope that it's generating, and the encoder lets you move it around, and you click and you can move to the next portion, you click, you move to the next portion. So let's have this just be triggered for now from Tetrapad. By the way, if you did not see the stream on Tetrapad's new companion that's coming out, Tet, you should definitely watch it. It looks absolutely amazing. I'm really, really excited for it to come out. Okay, so here we go. That's the trigger. There's the envelope out. Should shut up now. Let's see what this sounds like just to start. Oh, yeah, and you can see it's actually even visualizing in a bar here the signal level. So for this sound, I don't really want it to fade, so let's set the sustain all the way up because we don't really care that much. Let's listen to how the attack sounded. Went a little bit faster, actually. Okay, and maybe a little less release. Okay. Now, out of curiosity, I want to make this sound a little less static. So I want to send... Let's just mult this. And send that same envelope. Let's just try randomly sending it into a bunch of other of the inputs in CSL. See what it sounds like. So... obviously volt for octave is not going to be helpful. What about FM? Oh, well, not because it's an FM input. There's no attenuation on the amount of FM. Or is there? No, this CV is for the index. So let's try that to start. So this is controlling the amount of this second sine wave that's actually being sent in to merge with the other sine wave prior to the wave folder, just to be really complicated. Let's see what that sounds like. Ooh, a little too much. Interesting. What about negative? Sort of sounds like a cat or a baby. What about all the way up? Is that ridiculous? Yeah. All right. I don't particularly like that. Let's try the wavefold CV. That's kind of an interesting sound. Sorry, I keep leaning in too far. I'm trying to watch the ADSR here. Okay. I'm not so sure how much I necessarily like that either, although I didn't try it all the way in negative. Yeah, so the thing with the wavefolder on the CSL is that when you've hit it all the way to the left, it's essentially like stops the folding altogether, and you basically get no signal out of it. So, you know, not all that useful. What else can we modulate in here? Well, I'm not going to modulate the 1 volt per octave. What happens if we modulate FM? What does that even do? I don't... Oh, it is actually modulating it somewhat. I should put it back to linear, maybe. Weird, that's an entire other tone. Alright. Wasn't so great in FM either. Out of all of those, I think the index was the most interesting. Okay. let's just put an actual sequence into this and see if that, see how that goes. Might make it a little easier to sort of suss out what we're making here. So, just going to go back to my ever handy vector sequencer. Let's generate something. And let's not make it too fast. By default, it generates like at a rate of 16th notes. Let's do 8th notes and see where that goes. So we'll put the gate into crime, pitch into the volt per octave. This, by the way, has a link here. So when you link these two, the same volt per octave gets sent to both, which I think is handy in this case because of the synchronization that we've set up. So I'm just going to go into the through mode so I can play it with the keyboard and see what it sounds like. Wow, way more metallic than I would have expected. What if we turn off link? Yeah, see, if you turn off link, sync starts falling apart. So it's interesting. Why are we getting such metallic sounds? Not that I don't necessarily like them, but they're a little harsh. Alright, let's get this sequence playing. Whoa. Alright, and then we'll mess around with some controls. I think I'm going to turn down the attack and the release again a little bit. It's interesting that now the modulation... Oh, I turned it off. That's what it's doing. Whoa. Right, now it's getting crazy. Oh, there's a... almost a belly sounding... Okay, what if I now take this down a couple octaves? Interesting, that sort of sounds to me almost like a clarinet. Hello, hello, Techno Bear Music. Yes, this is my Saturday stream that's designed for you people because I get it. Our time zones don't match up very often, so it's good to see you. Thanks for dropping by. I'm just messing around with this CSL here that I got the other day in a trade, which is the most complex oscillator I've ever used, and I'm trying to tame it because it makes some ridiculous sounds. But I liked where we were at here with this sort of clarinet-y sound. I think this sequence sounds like crap, but let's just... I think we're in C chromatic mode, possibly for the, I don't know, we're in C major. Let's do something more interesting. Let's do A minor. I always like that. Let's just listen to the sign for a second. Just wanted to make sure we weren't changing. Let's go back, put this back instead. I turn this down a little more, the bass wavefold setting, and turn. Or not that. Wavefold can stay where it is. It's this guy. Okay, let's generate a new sequence. This is gross sounding. Still sounds a little bit out of tune, which is kind of interesting. I thought I got the tuning right, but I might not have. Just gonna change the overall. No, the tempo's at 70, so that's okay. So let's take this pattern and oh, it's transposed up an octave while also being transposed down an octave. Okay, that was not helpful. Alright, so we got something. It might not be the greatest, but first off, because it's always fun, just put some reverb on it. Now, I think this is gonna need delay, to be honest. I think this is gonna need delay. So go with our ever trusty Rainmaker here. Yes, it needs reverb indeed. It's always the tough thing because what patch do I have this set on? Oh, we're sending it into reverb too. What is this? This is the wah verb thing that we were using in the last setup. Alright, for me, this is still going a little too fast. And there's not enough gaps in it. I'm gonna use a different generation here. Let's try the Berlin style generation. So I gotta go back to the... Actually, maybe we'll use still the acid style generation. I'll generate something and I'm just gonna randomly turn off some gates. Still gonna go back and make this slower. Oh, and hello, Inverted Popes on YouTube. Good to see you. I said earlier I'm trying to stream to both platforms, at least for now. It's a lot easier for me if people make it on Twitch, but I get it that I have lots of subscribers on YouTube and they might not see these streams otherwise. So yeah. And again, if all of you who are here have any questions or things you want me to try out, feel free. I don't have an agenda for this particular stream. It's more just I wanted to play around with the CSL, see if we can make something interesting sounding with it. So yeah, if you have things you want to hear or a completely different module you want me to patch up, let me know. I think this needs to be way more sparse. Way more sparse. The patterns that we're generating here are not sparse enough, but it does sound a lot better with let's just turn off like a whole bunch of these gates. In fact, we'll turn all of them off. Just turn a few on. That's sounding a little nicer. Don't like that note. Don't like that that's repeating. I'm gonna change some of these pitches at random here. Are we still in the right? I feel like it's possible that this part... Oh no, it's dead on the same scale, so that's good. No issues there. What about if we change the envelope again? That's a little nicer on the envelope, actually. Slowly liking this sound a little better. Although I'm not sure, like this wah verb adds that cool wah effect to it, but I think this really does need an echoing, decaying delay. So just do a default preset to start here and see where we get. Oh, that already sounds so much better. Alright, I think maybe what I'll do is that little trick that I showed you all in the vector sequencer thing, where you generate a pattern and you use an external trigger to clock that pattern so that it starts and stops at weird different times. Because that, if I send a relatively sparse trigger into it, the problem that I have with the pattern as it exists right now is that it's because I'm trying to make it so sparse, it ends up being a little too repetitive, and I'd rather have like a long, complex pattern, but one where I can inject gaps at random places whenever I want to kind of clear the air, so to speak. So let's do that. In order to set that up, we need to go into global to the JXP trigs, and I've already got this set up, so trigger 1 is marked as external, which means I can send things into it, so that's good. And then for our part here, we need to go and change the mode eventually to T1. Oh, not T2, T1. That was weird. I hope I don't have a busted encoder. By the way, if any of you have any good resources on like soldering and electronics for modular, I would love to hear about it, because if you watched my last stream, you might have noticed that I totally found out that the frequency attenuverter on one of my nano rings is completely inoperative, and I would very much like to fix that myself, because I'm all about learning new stuff, but I honestly don't even know where to begin with that sort of thing. I know, like, I have a soldering iron, I have a multimeter. I think that's enough to get started, but I don't even know where to begin. So if anyone has any suggestions, please do let me know. I would really appreciate it. Anyway, so we're set up with the trigger mode. So now all we need is a random trigger. Where shall we generate this random trigger from today? Marbles would certainly be the one option. So let's just start with that. See what it sounds like. Maybe what I'll do... Yeah, actually, let's do something a little more complicated than I normally do. We'll go out of marbles, but I'm going to set up something that you might not have seen before. I'm gonna make it so that I can turn on and off the signal coming from marbles. so that if I by myself am controlling this and I want, like I feel like it's getting too busy and I want to stop it for a minute, I can. So in order to do that, let's use Shifty. Shifty is one of the easiest ways to do that. Shifty is a really great module from IntelliGel. I think it's a little unknown and a little underutilized, but not only can it act as an analog shift register, and it can also act as a sequential switch, a bunch of other things like that, which is actually more handy than you'd think in a lot of cases, and that's kind of what I'm going to use it for here. So we're only going to be sending gate. We're not going to be sending any CV values with this. So already right now it's in 2 voice mode, and you can see that every gate is just going to alternate between these two. So essentially, if I did this and then I patched that out to the trigger input here, we divide the number of pulses that we have from marbles in half, right? Well, actually not exactly in half, but every second pulse we get from marbles would actually go to a second if I put it in the second gate. But what we want to do is have this be in not shift register mode. Actually, this will be interesting. I think it needs to go into the CV because we need the gate to advance things along, and that gate is going to come from tetrapad so that I can trigger it. Yeah. So now when I trigger it, we get gates on each one of these 2. So if I start, I think I can also put this in the other mode. How do I do that again? There it is, I think. Or is it reset that you send the signal into? It's reset. Okay. So actually this can be made this way just fine. Yes, perfect. Okay. So now it's in sequential switch mode, which is super handy. So just patch this up real quick and make sure that it's doing what I think it's doing. So what should be happening right now, this is hi, Jajora. Yes, it is more complicated than I would have thought to pay attention to multiple chats. I'm using this service called restream.io, and supposedly it's meant to like merge all your chats together, but it's not really doing that for me, so I don't know. We'll see. I mentioned earlier, I'm doing this mostly just to make sure that those on YouTube get notified. I would much prefer if people watch on Twitch. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this because I'm on YouTube, but YouTube streaming service kind of sucks in comparison. So, yeah. Anyway, so I was saying we're running into Shifty. The gate is coming in from marbles, and it's being sent out to any one of these outputs right now. Because it's in sequential switch mode, I can, based on sending reset, I can change which of these outputs it's going through. So right now, this gate that's coming in is actually going out on output 2, which nothing is patched into, so I've essentially muted it for all intents and purposes. But if I trigger this again, now our gates are going in through the trigger, which is advancing the sequence. Yay. So now that we had that very sparse sequence going, so I'm just going to regenerate a sequence and see what we get. Whoa. Not like that. Sorry. I forgot that when you regenerate the sequence, it actually also... oh, that was the wrong thing to pull. Now it's... this. Ebonak, thank you very much for following. Appreciate it. If there's anything you'd like to see me do here, please do let me know. There. Sorry, that was a bit of craziness. When you generate a new sequence, it resets this entire sequence control page. So like your rate gets reset, your mode gets reset. I think the octave and transpose actually stay the same, but so does the start and length and all this sort of stuff. That would be a feature request for the guy who does the vector sequencer. I know he has some of the generation modes don't actually change this. Maybe I should look at the manual again. But yeah, it would be nice to say, hey, please don't mess with that. So, all right, now we'll let this advance with the trigger. Still feel like something tuning-wise sounds off here. So just for sake of argument, I'm gonna take just the sine, turn off the sync. Okay, that sounds sweet. This is a hilarious thing that I find about ambient modular is like even when you have these complex setups and these complex wave generators, half the time, what is it that sounds super amazing? Just a sine wave. Literally just a sine wave. At least in my opinion, anyway. I'm just going to listen for a minute because... Okay, that's really cool. Which album do I use to generate? Yes, the Acid 3.4 won't do that. Yes, that must be what it is. Yeah. See, I've done most of my work on the vector sequencer on the previous firmware version. So now that we're talking the latest one, which has that Acid 3.4 generator, this is what Jazora was saying on YouTube. Yeah, I'm not used to that, but yeah, good to know. I will start using that one instead because I don't like when it overwrites all the changes that I've made to length and stuff like that. I just want like pitch, gate, maybe velocity. I'm not really using that here, but okay. So just want to turn off the reverb for a sec, or not the reverb, the delay. Interesting. I'm just trying to decide in my head here right now whether or not I want more impactful, I guess, of a delay effect. Because this panner thing, you can probably hear, it is panning things around a little bit and sort of extending the decay. Speaking of which, I'm going to make the release longer. Not longer attack, but yeah. Just trying to go full wet with the delay now and see. I do like that I spent all this time on the CSL just to use its sine output. Because I really like what this is doing. Need to watch the previous 30 minutes to work out what's going on. What do you mean, Jazora, about? Oh, because I guess you can go back in YouTube stream, right? Yeah, that is a good point. I guess I need to get a little better about talking about what I'm doing when new people join, but it's also hard to see when new people join too. So yeah. Okay. I want to use more of this CSL. I want to do something else with this because it feels like not worth this entire thing when I'm just using the sine. So what about if we take yes, ring mod output. Turn off a bunch of stuff for the moment. So it's ring mod by default, amplitude modulation on yellow, I believe, and a rectifier on orange. Maybe a better option for this would be I don't have the module installed right now. I was gonna say I'll use a mixer and see what I can get out of that, but I don't actually have my mixer here right now. I was gonna do like, let's mix the sine and like the interesting. This is one of the cool things the CSL has is this. So on the top, the pulse width modulation output is like what you would expect. It's like a square wave, right? Well, not a square wave, but a variable duty wave, whatever those are called. But the pulse width modulation on the bottom one is like a stepped triangle wave. It's interesting. Kind of am interested in this. Oh yeah, of course I can use the quadrat as a mixer. Duh. Yeah. So, okay. Let's try something here. Let's mix sine output. And this weird stepped triangle. So these both need to be in unipolar mode. Yep, okay. I wonder what this sounds like. Yes, I'll be reiterating. I hope that I will be reiterating constantly. That would be great, Jazora. If I had enough people joining all the time that I had to be reiterating constantly, that'd be a good problem to have. But yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, so what did we have here? We had... There's the sine. So that pulse width modulation, or needs, surprise, surprise, some modulation. It's gonna increase volume in a couple places here. What should we modulate it with? Let's just use the smooth Y output from Marbles. I'm going to throw this all through QPass. Because why not? Let's see. So now, oh, it can't actually go this way. It needs to come out of the quadrat into the VCA and out of the VCA and into QPass so that I can come out of QPass in stereo and go in stereo into the Rainmaker. So pick some things at random here. Smile pass and low pass or high pass. Let's see. This is a pretty bassy sound, but the top end with the secondary oscillator is not. Let's try high pass. I love the QPass. Such cool sounds. All right. I think we need a little more volume out of this, but... Now we need a whole buttload of LFOs to modulate. I'm not sure if I want... It feels much heavier in the left. I'm not sure I like that. I want a bandpass on the right. Does it feel left biased to all of you too? I feel like I've got a panning issue going on here. Coming in left. Left and right out, yeah. Although, you know what? I don't even need this VCA anymore. I forgot that QPass, via its level control, actually has basically, for all intents and purposes, a built-in VCA. So let's skip what we were doing here. Right, so this comes into the QPass. CV into the level, just barely. Although it does actually have a different sound when you're doing it this way, of course, because you're should it have a different sound? You're modifying the level, but it's only the incoming level, right? Oh, but I guess you're... It's interesting, because does that not sound different to all of you? This setup... So this versus... CV... In... And... Yeah, that's got a much different response to it. I guess it's just a difference between VCAs. But I definitely think I like this much better. It feels like a softer fade. It was a lot harder on QPass. So we're also going to modulate. Let me just set up another one of these into LFO mode. Filter pads. Frequency 2? Oof, no. It's too harsh for frequency 2. Even that might be a little much, actually. What about if we modulate resonance? I think I just liked it by default what it was before, so... No, I did not get to fix my rings, Jujora. I was actually mentioning this earlier, that if anyone has any resources on electronics as it comes to what goes on in Modular, that would be great, because I have a soldering iron, I have a multimeter, but I just don't really know where to start in terms of how I would diagnose this. I mean, like, I have a computer science background, so like I have some level of engineering knowledge, but not really on the electrical side of things. So yeah, if you know anything that I should read or whatever, that would be amazing. That's also something I've also been moderately interested in getting into, is doing some DIY modules, just because, I don't know, it'd be cool to have something. You're already building your own stuff, your own music, might as well build the thing that builds the music too. That'd be awesome. Okay. So I sort of liked where this was going. Now the only problem that I have is that we're... I'm going to to your point, I'm going to regenerate this pattern, and I'm going to use acid 3 so that it hopefully doesn't wipe out everything that I did. Again, man, do I ever wish that there was a way to trigger pattern generation or pattern evolution on the vector? That would be great. So what I was going to say is that marbles feels like it is, to me, it feels like it's generating the pattern a little bit too predictably. Oops. Oh yeah. Look at that. You can trigger it by hitting the cable yourself. Measure resistance over the pot to see if it works. I guess because that's essentially what the point of it is, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at the back of the board. I don't know how easy it'll be to get to that, but I guess when all these modules have these PCP boards that are just stacked on top of each other, you can, there's usually like screws, right? And you can just kind of like unstack them. There's no soldering between the boards. There must be like ribbon or something like that. It is not on the forum. You are right. I should do that. So yeah, let me put in something like that. It's so much easier to just complain though. Okay, they don't solder their boards together. Yeah, all right, I'll start with that and see if that gives me anything obvious. At least I can compare the two. Your TXL is held together by 2 pins. Wow, that sounds secure. All right, so what I need is a different source of random gates. I could use the random generator here that I have as a 1U module. The only problem is when it's set in random mode, the pulses really truly are random. They're like, sometimes you get 6 pulses in a row, and I don't really, well, let's hook it up and see what it sounds like, because it's not going to be great, but yeah, you can hear it sort of advancing really, really, really fast. Bit too much. So, how else could I generate something like this? What I want is a set of gates that's relatively sparse and not necessarily, if I want it not necessarily on time, why am I not just using jitter in marbles? Because that will throw it off by random little amounts to, quote, humanize it, right? So let's do that. Let's turn the jitter way up. Maybe not quite that far up. Alright, so that throws it off a little more. And then if I just lock the pattern and introduce a small amount of deja vu, that'll keep things mostly the same but evolving. Okay, so where should we go from here? Still not actually, with this sparseness, I'm not 100% sold on this panner anymore. Oh, they don't even have it on. Whoa. It definitely worked much better with the pure sine wave. Sounds like some sort of sci-fi space thing. Let's just play around with a couple more presets and see where we get. Is very loud. Oof. That was weird. That Rainmaker just had some sort of freak out. I tried to load the preset and seized went all over the page and did nothing. Weird. Okay. Reverses do not work very well with this. Ugh. Yeah, please don't generate. Oh wait, hold on. Clear. Just give me the raw sound. That was starting to sound interesting. No. Oh. You get like a chord out of it eventually, but yeah, no. All right, no. Techno loop. Weird. All right, I'm gonna try some of the crazy presets that are way up near the end. I don't think I got to the very end of all the crazy presets. I think we're going to start from scratch with Rainmaker here. Let's just get some taps going. So, turn up tab 4. And of course we will need some clocking. So, I'm going to turn the jitter back down on Marvels and let's, I guess it can be our master clock source to some degree here. Might be better to have something that we know is clocked properly though. I'll just have the clock out from Pam's new workout, and that'll do. See what I'm doing? I'm just gonna set up a really simple clock. We're already on gates. Oh, and I gotta turn off the random skip because that won't be helpful. 0%. We don't need any steps or E-trigs or rotations. Man, I should have just reset this. Oh well. Okay, so we're gonna have a clock. Might be a very fast clock, but we'll see in a sec. A little too fast. It's a bit better. Okay, so now we're at least clocked from something. Now we can, oh my goodness, where was I going from here? We were clocked. I wanted to clock Rainmaker, right. Let's just mult this out. Clock Rainmaker so that we get some interesting time sync delays. Our feedback is set relatively high. Maybe a bit too much feedback there. Let's pan these around. Make things a little more interesting. Don't. Ooh. Is everyone else getting the clicking sound? I think it's coming from the reverser. I hope it's coming from the reverser. I'm gonna turn it off. No, I'm getting... What is that click coming from? Something in Rainmaker is clicking at me. I don't know what it is. Let's generate a new pattern. Oh my goodness, don't generate all A's. That was really not helpful. So now I'm curious about turn up Rainmaker a bit and see where we... Okay, there's a bit of a rhythm coming out of it. Kind of like that. I do feel like maybe the LFOs are being a little bit too hard with QPass. Okay, I kind of like this. Now, I was curious about... I haven't worked with a complex oscillator like this much before, about having one of the other outputs from CSL that's already in tune playing continuously or something like that. What about the pulse out? Well, of course. Not going to be great on its own. Let's put it through Lo-Fi Junkie. Who's... Jeez. Got a bunch of loose nuts on here. I don't think that that is necessarily the answer. What if we go with the wave-folded output? Because that was... I think it would really need to be mixed into the rest of the output to be something that's useful. I know I have these oscillators linked, but if I guess I can use the top one as an entirely separate oscillator, hey? So maybe we can try that trick I was talking about. It starts to go into laser mode rather quickly. Yes, very much so. It's a little more subtle now. I think this works. Just turning off the gates for a minute. I feel like maybe there's a little bit much feedback. Let's turn it back on. Anyway, I was gonna say I talked in the vector sequencer stream that I did a little while back about trying trying one sequence and then another sequence that uses the invert command on here, and running that through another oscillator. So let's try that. Since I essentially have two oscillators here, and I'm not... Am I making them interact with each other? Oh, I am making them interact with each other a little bit. But that would only be through the wavefold output, which we're not using right now. So let's see about that. I'm going to remember how to do this again. I want to copy the whole part and paste it onto part 2 and then invert it and then send that to the other oscillator. And then since I've got a second channel of this ADSR envelope generator, I can use the same envelope to have it playing somewhat in time, I guess, with the other one. We'll see how that sounds. Okay, so I need to copy this. I think it's shift select on a different page. I think it is part page. Oh, I never remember this. Where is my manual? I can't stream this early in the morning. Hi, Nightworks. I'm doing this for the EU people. Make sure I cover all the time zones. Normally, yes, I would not be doing anything this early, quote, early in the morning, but, you know. Okay, let me just grab the manual for the sequencer again. I've got to remember how to copy and paste between parts. Where is the manual? Yes, that intro is the one I mentioned the other night. This is what we've been playing around with here, is the CSL. All the sounds right now are from the CSL. It is immensely complicated. Immensely complicated. I know, right? It's been new gear hype the past few streams just because a whole bunch of stuff. Black Friday, and this CSL actually traded. I previously had a Dig Attack, and I traded that out because I'm gonna try to use the Morphogene, and maybe I will. I've been debating about whether I need to work with the Morphogene more, but I've been debating about whether I might want something like an assimilator or like a 1010 bit box or whatever as a more like dedicated sampler, but we'll see. Okay, so manual. Let's find how we copy and paste parts. So you all can see it somewhat. Where is the section on copying and pasting? Tips and tricks. You can copy a preset from one file to another. Shift and select to copy the preset. Move. Okay. I can copy and paste presets between parts. Right, so I need to be in here. Guess we're on preset 2 for some reason. Alright, so I have to hold Shift and select. Copy the preset. Part 1, here 2, and we're going to part 2. And to paste it, we do Shift and skip. Okay, maybe, hopefully. Let's see if we're in part 2. That looks right. Part 1, yes. All right. We figured out copy and paste again. Now I have to remember this for the future because I want to do things like this a lot. So, all right, now we got part 2 running. So for now, before inverting it, let's just send it into the other oscillator and see what we get. So pitch into volt per octave. No sense in taking the sine. Let's do a triangle wave because why not? Did it copy? I'm curious. Did it copy the whole? Oh yeah, and it's also still being triggered by T1, so it did copy the whole thing, which is cool. Okay. So this will need to go through VCA. Oh my goodness! Now that I have real oscillators in my system, I need to get VCAs. Meh. Actually, the nice thing is that the performance mixer has a level input that you can sort of use as a ghetto VCA. So we're gonna do that. So we'll take the triangle. 2 is probably not going to sound great to start, but and we'll send the output from the other side of the envelope generator, which we will trigger with gate 2, just to keep things separate in case we want to change the rate at which they're done. It's interesting, if you watch the yes, I do have a lot of space for 1U VCAs. That is exactly what I want. They are sold out everywhere that I can get them right now, sadly. But yes, modular grid is very annoying about the 1U stuff. I can't, like, you can't. I don't have. Being that I have 2 7U cases, I can't put it all in one thing. I have to put my my normal modules in there, and then my 1U modules in a separate thing. But yeah, so I need some 1U VCAs. I've been debating for pure vanity reasons getting that little oscilloscope thing that goes in 1U. Might be kind of cool, but Oh, you have to pay for... Right, you have to actually pay for it. Well, maybe I should, because that site is amazing, and it really is worth supporting. Yeah, okay. I was just saying, it's interesting. The two ADSR envelope generators, when you watch them, I'll do the top view. They're not actually completely in sync. Like they, almost like they have different, sometimes they're good, and other times, like they're a little bit off. That's really weird, because they're supposed to be identical, the same ADSR. I wonder why it's generating slightly different ones. It's not the end of the world, but like... The curve response on the level control on the performance mixer is not really greatly suited for a VCA, because it does... I believe it's like under -12 or -18 on the mixer. You end up with... Hello, Mr. Basic Sound. Below -18, I think it exponentially drops and cuts the signal entirely. So you have this really weird sounding VCA. Like you can, if I just mute 7 for a sec, just listen. It doesn't sound anything like you would think that that envelope should, especially the release and so forth. So, yeah. Yep, need more VCAs. Oh, wait, God, what am I doing? Sorry, I'm really dumb sometimes. This has been twice in this stream. You know, my 1U VCA is a dual VCA. There's a second part of it on the bottom. It's right here. Should have just used that. All right, there we go. All right, so that's that, and the CV. And then we need an out. Let's see if this helps. Sounds slightly out of tune, which is weird. What setting do I have that's changing this? Just gonna turn only the sine wave on for a sec. Something is different between these two patterns. Both set to the same setup. They shouldn't be transposed any differently. I wonder if... are they starting on different points in the sequence? Yes, lots of people turning up now. That's great. Yeah, the coarse knobs are different, but as far as I understood, these two oscillators in the CSL are different enough that they end up, like if you tune them the same, they end up with different settings. But I will double check that, because I'm not really sure. So let's try. We'll take... I need a longer cable again. Let's take the sine from both sides and just double check, because well, the tuning on that is actually a bit off. It's just tuned more to D. Okay. Should be better tuned now to a C-ish. Input. Oof. One thing about the 2 HP modules, man, does space get tight on them. They are handy, but like... Yeah, that is true. That is a good point. I definitely probably did not tune it warm. This is my first Instro module, Mr. Basic, and I am so far quite impressed. I've mostly been spending a lot of this stream trying to figure out how to tame it, because you can make some really crazy harsh sounds with it, and what I ended up doing was mostly just using the sine wave, because sine waves and ambient go together like bread and butter. Yes, I used to have that, and I still do have a 2 HP mixer that I've got to put somewhere, but yeah, cramming them together is like not a good idea. You're never going to be able to reach half the knobs. It's close enough right now between my U-burst knobs here that it's a pain in the ass to get into. All right, so let's just check the tuning on the other side here. Yeah, you're totally right. It drifted. Another thing I'm actually not really used to is using analog oscillators, so... Okay, now we should be more in tune. Let's see about this now. Everything's plugged back in. They're very close. I'm gonna blend these two together and just do it by ear. It might be a little easier to get it that way. These both in on 5. One is actually an octave down from the other, but that's okay. This is channel 5. The gain up so I can hear a bit better. That's about as close as I'm gonna get. Now this really should be better. You're not talking about my Moleco Heavy Industry, because I don't have anything by them that I know of. Alright, sounds a little bit better. I might take the pitch from the second track and set it up an octave, though. Let's put it through the lo-fi junkie. And let's use the triangle wave. I feel like I've got something wrong here. No, the CV's set up properly. Qubit had a sale. You know, I've had a whole bunch of Qubits modules, and for some reason, none of them have ever gelled for me. I feel like it's... I've had... what have I had? Nebulae. I had a Prism at one point. I had Qubit Chance, but that was kind of... I don't know. A huge amount of HP, I thought. Or not Qubit Chance, chord, rather. Huge amount of HP just for generating chords. I don't know, never gelled for me a lot of their stuff, especially Nebulae, for some reason. There's too much having to read the manual, too much like shift functions and stuff like that. It didn't work for me. All right, I'm just gonna something is definitely not right about the way that this VCA is generating things. We're going in from here, yeah. The release almost sounds like it's not working. Just watching the CV lights, which you can't quite see. Watch the bottom CV light. It's not really matching with the sounds. The nebulae, the gelling part of it, like mostly it was those secondary functions where you have to like hold down shift or whatever and then rotate the knobs to be able to modify like secondary parameters and whatnot. Those were the parameters I found myself changing the most, and so it was a pain in the ass to always have to hold the shift and change those parameters and then go back and reset the knobs back to where they were for the parameters that are on there by default. And like, yeah, it was, I don't know, it just didn't do it for me. It was really interesting to have the alternate, not firmwares, but like the alternate like DSP programs that you could load into it to like run it as a what was it, there was like a reverb one, I think, or something like that. But yes. I am a software developer in my normal life. I want to stay as far away from developing software as possible in my spare time. Okay. But yeah, so something is up with this VCA. It is not... The sound is not behaving in the way I would think this should be. Do you sort of hear what I mean? It sounds like it's not really fading and just abruptly shutting off. I feel like something's up with the ornament and crime, to be honest. There might be something about the secondary, because remember I was saying that the envelope generators seem to be slightly out of phase sometimes. Let's, just for sake of argument, we're going to take the envelope that's generated for the first oscillator and just see if that... No, it seems to be the same. Weird. Oh yeah, really? Okay. That's good to know that you have this issue with your ornament and crime, so I wonder if that's what it is. Let's just generate an envelope out of stages then. Simpler that way. You have a Norn's shield coming in, so you can do more programming with your modular. What is that? I've never heard of that. Okay, envelope. We want just a tack decay sustain envelope, right? Really? And it needs to be triggered. This. Right, it actually needs to be all the way over here so that it works properly. That's much better. That's interesting and good to know, because I'm going to stay away from generating envelopes on the ornament and crime, apparently. To be honest, I've been debating whether I even want an ornament and crime anymore. Like maybe I should flash it back to the default firmware and see if I find that to be a little bit more useful now that I understand it a bit better. Anyway, so Monom's open source instrument. Okay. You'll do it all in Lua. Yeah, that's interesting. I thought that they because they have that other one, the is it the teletype that you can sort of program with? But yeah, I hadn't heard of the Norns. This is relatively new, right? And so you, Mr. Basic, you've limited yourself to 6 voices, and your size can only increase based around that. It's a good idea. I think putting limitations on yourself musically, it really helps. Otherwise, it gets totally overwhelming. Like from what I have here in my setup right now, the only other voice that I would consider getting, like I mentioned earlier, is a more traditional sampler. And then beyond that, the rest of the things I want to fill this with is either utility or effects, and that's it. And I'm definitely not going beyond these 2 cases because traveling is a pain in the ass with anything more than that. Relatively new. Teletype was your first wow. Yeah, all right. You're all about the programming then if Teletype was your first sequencer. This is why I do modular, is to get away from the computer in as many ways as possible. Oh, that's actually another thing. Do any of you have experience with the ER301, that crazy like custom made thing that the guy in Japan makes that's essentially like a sound computer for all intents and purposes? A bunch of people have been telling me that is a good way to get into like classic sequencing, because classic sampler. Because even if you don't like the sampler portion of it, then it can be an effects unit and a bunch of other things. But it also seems insanely complicated. It's on your wish list, but you ran out of space. Yeah, isn't that the problem all the time, right? Okay, let's put these things back on. This is so far sounding quite good. Of course, I don't want the sine really. I kind of want the triangle wave. Right, and I was going to take part 2 and I was going to invert the pitches. Oops, I'm already in part 2. Invert. So this second part, it definitely is slightly out of tune, but I've tried to fix that like 5 times. So we're just gonna roll with it and see what happens. But it needs, number 1, some reverb, but also probably some delay. So if I run this, mix this in with the rest of the Rainmaker stack. Thanks, Nightworks. Thank you for hosting. I'm not so sure that works so great in with the Rainmaker because of the fact that it's slightly out of tune. Yes, not the cheapest import from Japan. I am sure that will be the case with the ER301. I mean, but I'm in Canada and I'm used to import costs all the time because there's really only one company in Canada that gets modules, and when they don't have that module in stock and I have to order it from the States, I'm automatically dinged with all that stuff anyway. So, but yes, I have heard it is very menu divey, so that's sort of my hesitance on it. Because, like for instance, Rainmaker. A lot of people say Rainmaker is menu divey. I really disagree. It like, at most, it's 1 page of diving and that's it. Most of everything is just is a button already, and then there's a menu and you just and that's fine. But like, even the ornament and crimes level of menu diving, I'm okay with most of the time. But yes, I hear the ER301 is like endless. All right. Neil Parfit. Let me make a note of that so that I remember to look at his channel for the ER301. Just one sec. Yeah, cool. Alright. I will check that out. Okay. So I was saying that I don't necessarily like this triangle way of being in with the Rainmaker. Let's put it in through the black hole. We might get some delays that are out of sync with each other, but that might also be interesting. Just gonna listen to it on its own for the moment and bring up this handy thing. If you are on iOS, you should definitely pick up this Modes app. It is really great for a really quick reference to see what things are going on in a bunch of different modules. It has a DSP2, it has the Morphogene, it has clouds, a bunch of other stuff like that. So this is in low pass delay mode right now. Let's try the granular delay. Ram 1 is feedback. Ram 2 is green size, obviously. I think width must be stereo width, but I'm not going to do this stereo. Don't really like this granular thing. It's sort of shimmer drift. Ooh. All right, we're not using that. That's going to be a bit too intense for this. Sorry, I'm going to blow out your eardrums here. Tap tap delay. Number 5. There, yeah, so here I'll show you, since you can see. This is the reference for clouds in, get over the light, clouds in Parasites mode. So it shows you what all the different modes are that you can choose from, and then if you like, if we look at looping delay or whatever, then it shows you a really quick thing about what are all the points that you're looking at, what are all the knobs do, what are all the position, and then what are what do all the blend parameters look like and whatnot. So this is super handy. I think it's like $5, but totally worth it to support this guy. Hopefully he puts more things in it. Considering I'm an ambient guy, you rarely see me doing rings into clouds. Well, 90% of my music on actually, you know what? No, sorry, I should say I don't really often do. I'm gonna change this to a different patch so it doesn't sound weird. We'll turn back on the nicer sounds in the background. Yeah, I actually don't usually do rings into clouds, bizarrely. I have a tutorial on rings into clouds, just because, you know, everyone sees that as a stereotypical ambient stuff, but if I'm being totally honest, I find clouds hard to work with. It's hard to get. The reverb sounds that you can get out of clouds are great, really, really awesome. But like all of the other settings, I find that like I'll tweak around with all the granular stuff, or I'll try the looping delay mode or whatnot, and it sounds okay, but it really doesn't sound good until you put the reverb on, and then it's just everything is blurred together anyway. And so, you know, there's a million other modules that could do the same thing. So it's cool, but it's not. I don't know that it's either I have no idea what I'm doing with it, which is entirely possible, or it's not as cool as I think it is. Oh, cool. Well, I'm glad that you. I'm glad that that tutorial video brought you there. And yes, I'm Mr. Basic. I'm glad that that's helpful. Again, it's called Modes on the iOS store. I don't know if it's on Android, but. Yeah. I really like the beginning of this because it's sine waves, and then everything else we try to add to this is a little not great. bring modes back up here. That my input level is way off. Let's see. Alright. Let's just do, what about a simple dual delay? And maybe let's not use the triangle, let's use the wave folder. No FM. But this is sounding better. Yeah, I like this too, Jajor. I want to give it a bit more movement. Maybe I'll drop some... let's maybe drop the envelope. I'm running out of... Actually, I can mult it with a stack cable. I was going to say, let's drop the envelope into the symmetry bias for the wave folder, because that will change things up a little bit. Symmetry bias. Oops, sorry. So you can see... bias. Into the wavefold amount. Whoa. I've definitely got a sweet spot in that wave folder right now. When it too far down, the wave folder just shuts off. Yeah, okay. This is not going to be the spot to modulate. Yeah, it is kind of ghostly, right? I don't remember these buttons do yet. What if we self-patch this? Yeah, I saw that in some of the videos that I read about CSL, that you can use the wave folder as a faux VCA since it shuts down on the bottom, and a more interesting VCA than you'd get by default, right? I'm curious about self-patching something like the pulse width mod. This cable's longer than I really want. Hang on. Like if I self-patch the pulse width. I don't think I want to mess around with that. The sound might just be good on its own. Although, maybe if I switch to exponential FM. Ugh, no, it's gonna be too much. Okay, let's just leave this as is. So, just gonna change the lo-fi junkie, experiment with the speed. Whoa. That's too much. Alright, how does this all sound together? Needs a bit of overall volume adjustment. Maybe for one of these to be a little bit less into the reverb. It's interesting, but it still sounds out of tune. Just gonna re-invert that pattern back to the default and listen again. So weird. Just use the sign out again. Okay, let me reinvert this now from the sign out. That's really strange. I'm just gonna see where it is in the sequence. It's this A6 that's really strange and off sounding. I don't get, because we use it in other parts of the other sequence. And it's all good at that point. Why don't I just mute that? There. Oh, sorry, I don't want it skipped. I want it muted. How do I mute an individual part? Can I? Ah, there we go. Now I'm in mute mode. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so now it skips whatever the hell's wrong with those notes. Let's see if that sounds better together. Still not 100%, but it's all right. This makes me curious now about taking, instead of taking this upper oscillator, oops, don't put it in LFO mode, putting this through rings instead. Because, you know, every ambient stream needs some rings in it somewhere. Let's try that. Out from rings into that. And a thumping bass, yeah, right. I'll pull out the 808 and 909 kick drum modules, and we'll go to town. Okay. Ah, these are the times where I really wish this Black Hole DSP2 had synced delay. But you know what does have sync delay is the disting. let's use that. Again, we'll pull up our handy thing and find by... You can go into this thing and search by tag, so I can go by tag and say I want a delay. Here's all of the possible delays I can use. So let's do ping pong delay or not? Let's not. Let's just do a simple delay. So that's algorithm B4. And then it says Z is for feedback, X is audio input, Y is clock input, and then depending on the mode, we have all the outputs. So we're going to go in on X, we're going to come out on, I guess, A. And then we need a clock. We already multed a clock from somewhere, right? Yes. From Pam's new workouts, so we just need more feedback. Listen to it on its own for a sec. I don't think I want exactly the clock that's coming out of that. I think I want a different division. The one that's in Pam's right now is a divide 2, so let's, or multiply 2. Let's try a multiply, oh, not 2.6, 3. Just, oh, I gotta reset this thing because it's in some weird state. We want 8 outputs. Okay. I don't know. Wish it wouldn't click. Don't think times 3 times 4. Other than the weird clicking that I'm getting out of that, I feel like Are you surprised I don't clock the Pams with a runner clock from Vector? Yeah, well, in this case, I'm not even using the clock from Vector, right? The sequencer is actually being advanced on both tracks entirely by T1. So run on the Vector is just will it progress through the sequence or not? So, but I could do that, yeah. Sounds good, except for when I get that click. Oh, there's actually a delay time multiplier on this anyway. I should have just done it that way. So we are in... Yeah, it's weird. I don't understand why I get that click. Yes, yeah, the LFO used from the last few streams. It's true. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, I've got, what, 6 more channels I could run LFOs off of. And I think that might be what I end up replacing Ornament Crime with, unless I try flashing it back to the previous firmware that has that quadrature or whatever. Not previous, the other firmware that has quadrature, is I might consider getting a Batumi or something like that, like a dedicated, more easily put together LFO, because I oftentimes am using Tetrapad for that, but as soon as I get a Tetrapad is never going to be used for an LFO again, ever again, probably. So, like, yeah, I don't get why I'm getting clicks out of this. I'm just gonna listen to it on its raw. A different mode. must just be getting overloaded, which is weird. Another quadrat or a duat with Batumi. Yeah, I guess for the purposes of attenuation, because I don't think Batumi has... Can you attenuate the LFOs in Batumi? Maybe not. It's weird. I guess I could probably try unmuting these steps now too. Let's see. Now that sounds better. Yeah, I guess I gotta get better at tuning these analog oscillators, because that top one is definitely not in tune in comparison to rings that we very much tuned on the last go, and is a digital oscillator anyway, so it shouldn't ever drift. I like where this is headed. Abstract data 80E32 octo controller. Now I have to Google that. Still get that clicking sound. I feel like this thing is getting overloaded or something like that. Let's see, I'm just looking at the octo controller right now. Highly configurable control modulation triggering and pattern module, 8 simultaneous outputs, 12 individually assignable output types, including pulses, gates, LFOs, digital noise, loopable sample and hold, and a collection of arpeggios and rhythmic loops. Interesting. Sort of reminds me of that Rossum Control Forge thing or whatever. Not quite that advanced, but same sort of idea. I've never even seen this before. What module hasn't been on DivKid's videos? Well, I guess he hasn't done the vector sequencer, but okay. It's actually getting to the point here where I probably need to drop the stream, because I've got a couple other things to get done today, but it was great to have so many people around for this. Hopefully half of that was that it was useful for all you guys in the EU to have this at a more EU-friendly time. So I will definitely be doing this again next Saturday, same EU-friendly time. Like I said, my stream schedule is probably going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday for now. The Thursday ones were a little bit too much, plus I had a bunch of stuff going on last Thursday. Yeah, and once Christmas comes around, I might try to do a few more midweek EU-friendly streams as I have some time off, so that will be that'll be helpful. To listen to the Thursday 30 minutes, yeah. All right, well, thanks everybody, and I'm gonna see, since somebody suggested that I keep trying to do this, I'm gonna see if I can find someone to raid. Nope, I don't have anyone online to raid, so we're just gonna leave it at this for now. So take care everyone, and I will talk to hopefully some of you on Monday.